Hi friends, it's Andrea. It has been a whopper week and I am just in the mood to make a bag. So if you are too, check out the cut list which I have created for you. Get your materials together and we are going to jump right in and sew this fun zipper top tote bag. It features a nice wide pocket on the front and the back. It has an accent panel here, some coordinating straps, a lovely zipper top closure, and then inside there are two more slip pockets. So it's a really fun bag. I just want to give you some approximate measurements on this. We're looking at 13.5 inches across the top, 11 inches across the base. Height is coming in at 14 inches. And the depth on this is 3 inches. So before we get started, I would really appreciate it if you would do me a favor, give this video a thumbs up. It helps me out a lot and it's completely free to you. So thanks for doing that. Shall we get started? I am going to put the pattern cut list over here to the left for you. You can hit pause and screenshot that and then cut out your pieces. In addition, I'm also going to create a one-page PDF that you can download, and I will link to that in the notes if you prefer to have a document that you can print out or save to your device. So we are going to begin by crafting the exterior panels. I have one pre-crafted. This is what it's going to look like. The strap spans the majority of the front of the bag. There is a slip pocket here, which you could easily do in a complementary fabric and have that really pop out. There's a perfect little spot here for your product label. And then there is a nice box corner here. So if this looks good to you, we're going to jump right in and make the second panel. So I want to begin by prepping that center pocket. So that is crafted from two pieces of material that are 7 by 7. And I'm going to position those right sides facing and stitch across the top and the bottom using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then I want to take that and turn it right side out and press that well. And when I press that, I did so that a little bit of that lining fabric peeps up right over the top there and adds some interest. These sides are still raw edges and will be enclosed in the strap. Now I just want to run a row of top stitching right across that pocket edge there using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And that's what that looks like. Then the next step is to prep the strap. So this strap is cut 5 inches wide by the full length, so approximately 44 inches, and it is pressed in the same way that I press all of my straps. I press that long ways in half, wrong sides facing, and then I take those outer edges and bring them inward on that center press line, press again, then fold that over and press again. Rather than using interfacing on this strap, I am going to insert a like size length of Annie's strap webbing. This is 1 inch wide, and I'm just going to cut that to the same length and let that offer this strap some stability. If you're going to be using a different brand of webbing, just make sure that it is not too thick. An alternate way of making this strap would be to line it with a 2-inch wide strip of fusible fleece or quilt batting. If you like my little clip basket here, we made this together last week in the Sewspire Studio 365. It was one of our group projects for the month of August. Everybody crafted their own rope bowl, and I just happened to make this one that fits my clips beautifully. All right, so I have my webbing inserted inside of my 4-ply strap. Now I'm going to use a 1/4-inch seam allowance and stitch down that right hand open edge. Then I'm going to come across that short edge there and come back down the finished edge with another row of 1/4-inch top stitching. And then after I have stitched down both long edges, I'm going to give this a good press and sink those stitches. And now I have a beautiful, durable 1-inch strap, which I will be using here on the front of my bag to encase this slip pocket. So I'm going to take my top accent panel and I am going to use my mat to center that slip pocket that we just prepared 3 inches down from the top. I find it very handy to use a clear ruler on top of that to make sure that I have the same distance on each side and that this is nice and even at the 3-inch mark. So 3 inches down from the top of the pocket and 4 inches in from each side. And I'm just going to put a couple of straight pins in that pocket to hold it nice and even. I'm going to use a 1/4-inch seam allowance to stitch down the right hand side, across the base, and up the left hand side. Obviously, you want to leave the top of the pocket open. Okay, so my pocket is attached to that top accent panel. Now I want to take my strap and I want to frame that pocket with the outer edge of the strap hitting the 3 inches in from the left hand side and the right hand side of this panel. So just work one side at a time. Make sure that your strap is not twisted. And there will be 1.5 inches of overhang off the bottom of that panel. So the edge of the strap is 3 inches from the edge of your panel, and it should overlap the raw edges of that center pocket which we just attached. Now I'm going to stitch straight across the strap on each side, aligning with this top stitching at the bottom of the pocket, and then I'm going to stitch straight across the strap, aligning with the top stitching of the top of the pocket to anchor the strap. So now I have my strap anchored to that top accent panel. I want to bring over my base panel, which measures 5 by 15, and I have notched 1 3/4 inch squares from the bottom right and left hand corners. So the squares are the bottom of the bag, and that's how we're going to box the corners and give this bag its depth. So I want to take this bottom accent panel and I want to align the uncut edge with the base of my pocket panel here and use a 1/4 inch seam allowance to stitch all the way across there and connect those two panels. Now I'm going to go ahead and give this a good press. And I want to cut a like size piece of fusible fleece, which I am going to then fuse to this second exterior panel. So I cut mine 15 by 17 inches. And I'm just going to get this fused on there, and then I will clean up the excess fleece around this. And you can just fold back that handle to trim up that excess from the top. And I don't worry about notching the corners with the fleece. It just adds a little bit more stability there, and you can certainly see right through the fleece to line everything up. So I leave that intact there. Then once I have trimmed this up, I give it one more press just to make sure those outer edges are sealed. Okay, so now I have my exterior panel interface with a lightweight fusible fleece. Now I'm going to stitch from the top of that pocket down the center of that handle all the way to the base. And I'm going to do that on both sides. I'm just starting where that stitch line is at the top of the pocket. And I'm going to repeat for the opposite side of the pocket. And now I have 3 rows of stitching on each side of the pocket. Now I want to come right across this base panel here and stitch a 1/4 inch there from that seam to the right hand side or towards the base panel side, and that's going to further reinforce the straps and add a little more detail. And I have my second exterior panel all prepped here. It has a nice sturdy strap and a generous center slip pocket. You will craft 2 of those, so one for the front and one for the back of the exterior. This is a great time to attach your product label if you have one. So I'm just going to set these 2 exterior panels aside for a moment, and I'm going to bring over my 2 interior panels. These interior panels are 15 inches wide by 16 inches tall. There's 2 of them. They're backed with a like-size piece of the lightweight fusible fleece, and I have notched the 1 3/4 inch squares from the right and the left hand bottom corners. I'm going to be working with one of those interior panels and my interior pocket panel. My interior pocket panel is 15 inches by 12 inches. I am going to press that in half so that I have a 12-inch by 7.5-inch pocket. Right sides are facing together, and I am going to stitch up the short sides and across a portion of the top. I'm going to leave a couple inches open so I can turn this pocket right side out. I'm just using a 1/4-inch seam allowance. I'm going to back stitch where I break that thread, skip forward a couple inches, reinforce, and continue on. Now I want to go ahead and turn this pocket right side out, poke out those corners, and give this a good press. The portion which I left open to turn, I am going to let that seam turn inwards and press that straight and even with the top of that so that I can stitch over that and no one will be any wiser. So my fabric was a directional print, so the lining of this pocket is actually going to be upside down, but that doesn't bother me. The front of the pocket will be right side up. If you did have a directional print and that is something that would bother you, you could easily cut this pocket in half and have a seam along the bottom instead of that folded edge. So what I like to do is take my pocket and press that in half so I have my vertical stitch lines pressed in, with the opening towards the bottom, because then when I top stitch I'll close up that opening, and I'm going to position that pocket 3 inches down from the top of my interior panel and approximately 1.5 inches in from each side. I'm going to stitch down the right hand side, across the base, up the left hand side, and then I'm going to come back in and stitch down that vertical press line. Just using a 1/4-inch seam allowance, and I'm reinforcing at the beginning and the end. So I've attached the pocket around 3 sides. Now I'm going to stitch down that vertical press line to divide the pocket in half. And now I have a nice 2-way divided interior pocket. I'm going to go ahead and give that a good press and sink those stitches. You can, of course, divide this pocket any way you like. You also have the option of adding additional pockets on the second interior panel, which also has those 1 3/4-inch notches out of the bottom and the right-hand corners, and is backed with 1 layer of the lightweight fusible fleece. So you might also want to consider adding a key fob to the interior of your bag. You could attach that off the side seam or across the top of the pocket. Some people really like having key fobs on the interior of their bag. So the next step for us is to attach the zipper to the interior and the exterior panels. So we're going to begin with our 12-inch cut of zipper by the yard, which has 1 pole threaded on that, and we're going to take 2 of those notched corners and position those right sides facing at each end of the zipper, and then just stitch right across there using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then you'll take that fabric and fold that back and go ahead and stitch that down using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then you can press those zipper tab ends to sink those stitches. And your zipper is prepped. Absolutely love this rainbow zipper and this rainbow hardware. It's so much fun. Now we are going to need all 4 panels. So we're going to have 2 interior and 2 exterior panels, and then your zipper, which we just prepped. So we want to take the handles on the exterior and pin those out of the way so that there is no chance that we will accidentally stitch through those. So I just fold mine down and then use one of my tulip pins to hold that closer towards the base, because we're going to be working with this top edge of all of these panels. And we're going to position that right sides facing down on the exterior, and we're going to stitch right across there using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. As you approach that zipper pull, you can move that past the presser foot. So now my zipper is attached to one of the exterior panels. I want to take one of the interior panels and position that with the unnotched edge, or the top there, right on top of that. And I'm just going to come over that stitch line again, attach this interior to that zipper sandwich. And you may need to move the zipper pull out of the way. In theory, you could do this all in one stitch. I just think it's easier to do it separately. And as you approach the zipper pull, just sink your needle, pick up that presser foot, and move it out of your way. Then I will flip that interior around so that both the interior and the exterior are on one side of the zipper, and I have the opposite free side of that zipper up and available to work with on my table. My zipper pull is closer to the center, and now I want to take my remaining exterior panel and position that with that top edge on top of that zipper, which is now facing up. And I am going to align that with the remaining panels there, so everything is nice and even on the right hand and left hand sides. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch to stitch right across and attach that exterior panel to my zipper. As I approach the zipper pull, I'm going to sink the needle, lift up that presser foot, and move that right past there. And now my second exterior panel is attached to the zipper. It is so fun and beautiful. So I want to bring that panel down as well. I'm going to turn this over. All the panels are at this end, and I'm working with the interior fabric. I'm going to take my remaining interior panel with my pocket and position that along the top edge of that zipper, aligning the right and left hand edges. And I'm going to stitch down that with the 1/4 inch seam allowance to attach that to that zipper sandwich. And once I near the pole, same thing, just sink that needle and zip that past. So now if I flip back that first layer, I have 2 interior panels, right sides facing, and 2 exterior panels, right sides facing. I want to double check that in fact my zipper is open because I do not want to lock myself out of this. I want to go ahead and align those exterior panels. I'm going to start at the base here and make sure my base panels are aligned, and using 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, I'm going to stitch across the base of the exterior panels. And then working with my interior panels, I'm going to stitch in a couple inches on each edge, reinforcing with a back stitch and leaving a 4 to 5 inch opening for me to turn this bag around through. This is your final chance to make sure that that zipper is open and you're not locking yourself out of the bag. Working with the right hand side of the exterior, line up that fabric and go ahead and stitch down that right hand side using 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. You're going to want to prioritize lining up that base accent panel. So just peek in there and make sure that those edges are aligned. And then you can stitch down that right hand edge. Take your time, push the handles out of the way, keep the fabric nice and even. And as you approach the zipper, you can push those zipper teeth towards the exterior. You're going to want to go nice and slow over the zipper teeth. If needed, you can hand crank. And then continue down the right hand edge of that interior. And then we're going to flip this over and stitch down that opposite edge of the exterior, prioritizing those accent panels and lining those up using the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So you should have stitched down the right and left hand edges across the entire base of the exterior and a portion of the base of the interior. Now we're going to reach inside, go ahead and unzip that zipper all the way, and reach in to that exterior. And we're going to fashion those corners. So you're lining up that side seam with your base seam, using 3/8 of an inch seam allowance to stitch right across that corner and give this bag its depth. You'll repeat that for both of the exterior corners, and then you'll do the same thing for those interior corners. Just lining up that side seam with that base seam. And now all 4 of your corners are fashioned. You can go ahead and turn this project right side out. Be careful of those pins which are holding your straps down. As soon as you see those, you can remove them and prevent yourself from getting a poke. Very fun. These colors are gorgeous. Okay, before we fit the interior into the exterior, we want to go ahead and close up that opening in the base. So I like to give it a good press and get those seams to line up nice and straight there. You can certainly hand sew this for a fine finish. I'm going to just press and then using a very scant seam allowance stitch right across that to close up that opening in the base. And the next step is to fit the lining right inside of the exterior. Give the bag a little steam if you need, but this is looking really good. So I hope you guys enjoyed this project as much as I did. I woke up in the mood just to make a bag, and I felt like maybe somebody out there wanted to make a bag too. This is my original design. I hope you enjoy it. And if you happen to be on Instagram or Facebook, please do share a photo with me of your finished bags using @Sewspire. It was a pleasure to spend this time with you. I will be looking forward to seeing you in the next video. And until then, please know the creative genius in me will be celebrating the creative genius in you. I hope you have a beautiful day, everyone. Thanks for sewing with me.